The arrival. The sky turned a deep, burning red long before anyone saw the shapes. People in the small human outpost stepped outside their homes, confused at first, then scared as the air began to vibrate. Children covered their ears. Dogs ran and hid. Even the strong soldiers standing near the gates felt their hearts beat faster. Everyone knew what that red sky meant. The Red Dragon Pack was coming. They were known across 3-star systems for their fire, their rage, and their hunger for revenge. When they came, they did not talk. They did not ask questions. They destroyed everything that stood in their way. Nobody had ever survived their anger. And today, they were coming for humans. Commander Hale shouted for everyone to take shelter. Soldiers ran to the walls, loading energy rifles and preparing shields. But deep inside, every single person knew one thing. Humans could not win against dragons. The loud, thunder-like beating of enormous wings grew stronger. The ground shook. The sky darkened even more. Huge shadows appeared above the clouds, shadows shaped like monsters from old bedtime stories. But this was no story. This was real. The Red Dragon Pack broke through the clouds in one violent burst. 12 gigantic dragons, wings wide as ships, eyes glowing like burning coals, and scales shining bright red like hot metal. Their leader, a massive dragon with black horns, roared so loud that the mountain behind the outpost echoed back in fear. People screamed, but the dragons didn't come for the buildings. They came for a human. More exactly, for the one who they believed stole their hatchlings. As the dragons circled the outpost, the leader spoke in a voice that reached every corner of the settlement. "Return our young, or face fire and death." Commander Hale shouted back, shaking but brave, "We have not taken anything from you." This only made the leader roar louder. Flames burst from his mouth, lighting up the sky. The other dragons spread out, landing on walls, towers, and roofs, shaking everything under their enormous weight. Panic grew everywhere. But in the middle of this chaos, far away from the frightened crowd, someone was sleeping quietly inside a small wooden shelter. A young human man named Rowan. He did not hear the roaring. He did not hear the shaking ground. He did not hear people screaming his name, because Rowan was lying on a soft makeshift bed with 3 tiny dragon hatchlings sleeping on his chest. Their warm little bodies rose and fell as they breathed. One of them had its tiny claws wrapped around Rowan's shirt. Another lay curled against his neck. The smallest one had its head on his shoulder like a baby resting after a long day. Rowan barely moved. He just smiled in his sleep as the hatchlings made soft chirping sounds, their wings twitching peacefully. He didn't know the dragons were coming. He didn't know the pack believed humans had kidnapped their babies. He didn't even know why these hatchlings liked him so much. All he knew was that when he found them hidden near the forest edge 2 days ago, alone and scared, they climbed onto him the moment he reached out his hand. And now, for some strange reason, they refused to leave him. Outside, the leader dragon finally lost his patience. "Break the human shelters," he roared. Before the soldiers could even blink, 2 dragons crashed into the row of small buildings, tearing through walls and roofs with their claws. Wood flew everywhere. Sparks burned through the air. Soldiers scattered. One shelter after another turned into dust and smoke. As they came closer to Rowan's shelter, soldiers shouted, "Wait! There's a civilian inside." But dragons didn't wait. A huge claw ripped the roof off Rowan's building like paper. Sunlight poured in. Dust exploded. Broken wood fell everywhere. Rowan's eyes slowly opened. He saw a giant dragon face staring down at him, eyes glowing with pure rage. And yet, the hatchlings didn't wake up. One of them simply chirped in its sleep and snuggled deeper into Rowan's shirt. The big dragon froze. Her mouth opened slightly in shock. Her wings twitched. Her tail went still. In all her long life, she had never seen something so unnatural. Her hatchlings, fragile, fearful young, sleeping on a human as if he were their mother. She expected screams, panic, crying, but there was only quiet breathing and warm, soft chirping. Rowan blinked, still half asleep. He looked at the massive dragon, watching him. Good morning," he whispered, carefully so he wouldn't wake the babies. The huge dragon stepped back, confused and scared at the same time. Dragons, the most feared predators in the galaxy, were suddenly powerless because their young were lying peacefully on a human who looked like he had just woken from an afternoon nap. The pack leader landed with a thunderous crash, shaking the shelter remains. He pushed aside the dragon who found Rowan and stepped forward, ready to burn the human to ashes. But then he saw it. His hatchlings, all three, sleeping on the man's chest. He opened his mouth to release fire, but the smallest hatchling let out a tiny sneeze, sending a spark of baby fire into the air. Rowan gently patted the little one and whispered, "You'll wake them." The entire pack went silent. Dragons who feared nothing suddenly feared waking their babies. And for the first time in Red Dragon Pack history, their leader did not know what to do. He came here for blood, but what he found was impossible. A human trusted by dragon hatchlings. The war he expected did not happen. Instead, a mystery began. The confusion. For several long seconds, nobody moved. The dragons stayed frozen. The soldiers stayed frozen. Even the wind seemed too scared to blow. Only the three tiny hatchlings moved. Soft breathing, small chirps, warm little sparks of baby fire flicking from their nostrils as they slept on Rowan like he was their personal heater. The Red Dragon Pack leader, Vorith the Flameborn, stood perfectly still. His huge wings slowly folded close to his body. His eyes, normally full of fire, showed something no soldier had ever seen before. Fear. Not fear of Rowan. Fear of waking the babies. Rowan, still half dazed, slowly lifted his head. Can someone explain what's happening?" he whispered. His voice was soft, careful, respectful, like a man surrounded by 12 flying tanks and trying not to offend anyone. The dragons did not answer. They only stared. Finally, one dragon, a tall female with silver edges on her wings, took a shaky step forward. "These hatchlings," she whispered. They chose you?" Rowan blinked. "They what?" Before anyone could speak again, the smallest hatchling yawned, sending a tiny puff of smoke straight into Rowan's face. Rowan smiled. "Good morning, little one." Vorith's eyes widened. His voice dropped into a deep, rumbling growl. "They respond to you." Rowan shrugged lightly. "They were hungry when I found them. I just fed them." A dragon warrior hissed loudly. "You touched them. You fed them. You let them sleep on you." The hatchling on Rowan's chest stirred at the loud noise. Vorith snapped his head toward the warrior. "Silence," he growled. Instant silence. Not even a breath. Rowan realized something important in that moment. The entire pack was terrified of upsetting their hatchlings. He gently brushed dust from the smallest dragon's wings. The little creature cooed softly and curled closer. The dragons leaned forward in stunned curiosity. Even the most battle-hardened warriors lowered their heads a little, watching the tiny movements with love and the fear of new parents. Rowan let out a small sigh. "So they aren't yours?" Vorith stiffened. "They are ours. They are the future of our pack. Our blood. Our fire." "Right," Rowan said slowly. "Then why were they alone in the forest? Hungry? Cold?" Every dragon tensed sharply. Several growled. Others lowered their heads in shame. Vorith did not answer. Rowan noticed the leader's claws digging slightly into the earth. His wings twitched. His eyes darkened. A secret. A painful one. The human soldiers standing far behind watched with wide eyes. Commander Hale whispered, "What is happening? Why aren't they attacking?" A soldier answered softly, "Maybe the human is holding the babies hostage." But when a dragon turned sharply toward them, they shut up instantly. Rowan gently lifted one hatchling and placed it into the curve of his arm. The baby made a happy clicking sound, swiped its tiny tail over his wrist, and fell right back asleep. Dragons stare like they just witnessed magic. Vorith finally spoke again, voice low and heavy. "No hatchling has ever trusted a human. They fear your scent, your touch, your fireless hearts. Yet they cling to you." "Maybe," Rowan said, "because I helped them." "No," Vorith growled. "That is not enough." His eyes narrowed. "There is something on you." Rowan frowned. "On me?" Vorith leaned closer. His nose was the size of Rowan's entire torso. Rowan felt the heat of dragon breath around him, warmer than a campfire, but not painful. Just powerful. The dragon sniffed. Once. Twice. Then jerked back in shock. "What is that smell?" whispered the silver-winged dragon. Vorith's voice trembled. The old fire, the ancient link. Rowan had no idea what they meant. "I only fed them berries and warmed them with my jacket." Vorith growled, "No. You carry a mark." "A what?" Before Rowan could react, Vorith touched his giant claw to Rowan's forearm. A faint red light glowed beneath Rowan's skin, like a hidden symbol waking up. Every dragon gasped. Rowan stared at his arm, shocked. What is that?" The silver-winged dragon whispered, "The trust seal." Vorith nodded slowly. "A mark formed only when hatchlings bond with someone they accept as safe." Rowan went cold. "They bonded with me?" "Deeply," Vorith said. "More deeply than any human ever has. They chose you as their warm blood guide." Rowan swallowed hard. "Is that bad?" Vorith's wings spread wide in instinct. Several soldiers jumped back in fear. "It is forbidden." Rowan froze. The silver-winged dragon whispered, "Dragons only bond with their own. A bond with another species is unnatural. Dangerous. It changes destiny." Vorith stepped closer. "And now, your destiny is tied to ours." Rowan lifted the smallest hatchling in his hands. The tiny dragon yawned again, pressed its head against his chest, and fell asleep with a soft chirp. Rowan whispered, "I didn't ask for this." Vorith growled softly. "Neither did we. Yet here we stand." All dragons watched Rowan. All humans watched the dragons. And Rowan watched the glowing mark pulsing on his arm like a heartbeat that wasn't his. Finally, Vorith turned to his warriors. "Stand down." The dragons lowered their wings. The sound echoed like a storm ending. But Vorith wasn't done. He leaned close to Rowan again, lowering his voice into a dangerous, warning growl. "The hatchlings trust you, but I do not." Rowan felt the heat of dragon breath on his face. "If you harm them, if you lie, if you hide anything, your life is mine." Rowan met his eyes. "I understand." Vorith's pupils narrowed. "Good." He slowly lifted his head and roared a command across the entire outpost. "Bring the human. Let him stand before the flame." Dragons stiffened. The soldiers trembled. Rowan whispered, "What does that mean?" The silver-winged dragon answered softly, "It means you'll be tested. And if you fail, you burn." The test. The air grew heavy the moment Vorith gave the command. "Bring the human. Let him stand before the flame." Every dragon snapped to attention. Their claws dug into the earth, their wings tightened, and their eyes filled with something Rowan didn't like at all. Not anger, not hate, judgment. Rowan felt his heart drop into his stomach. I don't think I'm ready for any flame." The silver-winged dragon leaned close. Her voice trembled. "No one is ever ready." Two huge warriors stepped toward Rowan. Their scales glowed faintly with heat. One motioned with his claw. "Human, rise." Rowan slowly stood, careful not to disturb the hatchlings still curled against him. He gently passed them to the silver-winged dragon. She held them like priceless treasure, wings curled protectively around their sleeping forms. Rowan felt strange watching her, a fierce, fire-blooded creature holding babies like a gentle nurse. The warriors escorted Rowan across the ruined outpost. Humans tried to reach out, but one dragon glare forced them back. Commander Hale whispered, "Rowan, do you want us to intervene?" Rowan gave a tiny shake of his head. "If you fight, we all die." The soldiers stayed silent. The dragons led Rowan to an open area where the ground was blackened and cracked. The air shimmered with heat. This was no ordinary place. This was a ritual ground, the circle of true fire. Vorith landed with a heavy thud. Flames rose around him in a ring, swirling like living snakes of heat. His wings opened wide, glowing brighter than molten steel. "The test is simple," Vorith said. "You walk into the flame." Rowan blinked. "That's not simple. If the fire sees your heart as honest," Vorith continued, "you will live. And if it does not," Rowan asked, already knowing the answer, "then you will not." Rowan's fingertips tingled. His chest tightened. Sweat rolled down his neck even before the flames touched him. Humans watching from the distance whispered prayers. Dragons watching above went silent. Even their wings stopped moving. Rowan stared at the circle of fire. It crackled, hissed, and shifted like it was alive. The flames weren't red. They were blue at the center, white at the edges. They didn't look natural. Vorith growled, "Enter now." Rowan took one slow step forward. The moment his boot touched the edge of the flame, the fire reacted. A roaring sound blasted through the air. The flame rose higher, taller, like it wanted to swallow him whole. Rowan clenched his fists. He whispered to himself, "The hatchlings trusted me. Maybe this fire will too." Another step. Heat slammed into him like a wall. His eyebrows burned. His breath shook. The fire bent toward him like it was sniffing him, tasting the air around him. The dragons watched with intense stare. One whispered, "If he lies, he will scream." Vorith did not look away. Rowan stepped deeper into the circle. The flames wrapped around him, rising like serpents. They did not touch him yet. They only hovered, waiting. Then the fire began to change. It shifted color, shimmering red, then orange, then blue again. Flaring, twisting, searching. A voice echoed through the flames. Not human, not dragon. Something old, something ancient. "Why do you hold the young?" Rowan's eyes widened. The voice came from everywhere. The sky, the ground, the flames themselves. He swallowed hard. Because they needed help. The flames crackled angrily. "You touched them with no right." Rowan's throat went dry. "They came to me. I didn't force anything." The flames hissed. Heat surged. Rowan felt the skin on his arms sting, but the fire did not burn him. "You carry the seal." "What?" Rowan shook his head. "I don't know. I didn't choose it." The flames rose higher, forming a shape, a massive dragon head made of fire. Its eyes glowed bright white, staring deep into Rowan. "What is in your heart, human?" Rowan's voice trembled. "I wanted to protect them." The flame dragon leaned closer, fire crackling like thunder. "And would you die to protect them?" Rowan froze. The dragons outside leaned forward. Even Vorith's wings twitched. Rowan thought about the hatchlings, their tiny claws, their warm breaths, how they curled into his shirt like he was their home. He knew the truth. He whispered, voice steady, "Yes." The fire exploded around him. Dragons gasped. Humans screamed. The entire circle erupted into a storm of blue and white fire, spinning and wrapping around Rowan's body like a giant pillar of lightning and heat. Vorith roared, "He is lying." But then, the flames began to shrink. Slowly, softly, turning gentle, turning warm. They moved around Rowan like soft ribbons of sunlight. Not burning, not hurting, simply glowing. The flame dragon's voice returned, calm now. "Your heart speaks true." The pillar of fire collapsed inward, forming a small glowing orb that floated into Rowan's hands. Dragons froze. Every single one. Vorith's eyes widened in terror. That is impossible." The silver-winged dragon whispered. He passed. And more. Rowan stared at the orb. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. It felt warm. Safe. Alive. "What is this?" Rowan asked. Vorith lowered his head, voice shaking for the first time in his life. "It is the flame's blessing. A gift only given to a dragon chosen by destiny." Rowan blinked. "But I'm not a dragon." Vorith stepped back. "You are now something far more dangerous." The ground rumbled. The sky darkened. And suddenly, every dragon's head snapped toward the forest as a deep roar echoed through the valley. Not dragon, not human, not natural. The silver-winged dragon whispered in fear. They followed the hatchlings, and now they smell the flame on him. Vorith's wings spread wide. "Prepare yourselves. Something ancient is coming." Rowan tightened his grip on the glowing flame orb. "Is it after me?" Vorith stared at him, eyes full of fire and fear. "It is not after you." He pointed one giant claw at Rowan's chest. "It is after what you have become." The hidden bond. The forest did not shake gently. It shook like something enormous was tearing through it, breaking trees, crushing stone, dragging darkness behind it. Every dragon, turned toward the sound. Their wings lifted slightly, their claws dug deeper into the earth, and their eyes narrowed in pure instinct. Whatever was coming, dragons feared it. Rowan noticed that first. He saw the way Vorth's tail lowered, the way his wings pulled tighter, the way his pupils became small, sharp slits. Fear. The leader of the Red Dragon Pack, a creature made of fire and war, was afraid. Rowan whispered, What is coming?" Vorth didn't answer immediately. His voice came out like broken stone. "The creatures that hunted the hatchlings. The ones we call the Shadow Maw." Rowan felt his skin crawl just hearing the name. The silver-winged dragon whispered, "They do not hunt for food. They do not hunt for land. They hunt for power." Rowan gripped the glowing flame orb tighter. It pulsed softly in his palm like a tiny heartbeat. "Are they after this?" Vorth stared at the orb. They would tear worlds apart for the flame's blessing. Before Rowan could respond, a cold wind blew across the outpost, freezing everything it touched. The remaining fires flickered weakly. Even the dragon's scales dimmed slightly. The shaking grew stronger. Something was moving closer. Something big. But before the Shadow Maw arrived, Vorth turned sharply toward Rowan. "You must understand something, human. The flame did not choose you without reason." Rowan raised an eyebrow. "It chose me by mistake, right? I mean..." And oh, Vorth snapped. His roar shook the ground. "This is not a mistake. The flame seized the bond inside your chest." "What bond?" Vorth lowered his head until his glowing eyes were level with Rowan. "The bond the hatchlings formed with you. Because I saved them?" Vorth shook his head slowly. "No. Many have saved dragons. None were chosen." The silver-winged dragon stepped forward now. She lifted the smallest hatchling and placed it carefully into Rowan's arms again. "You did not only save them. You comforted them. You fed them. You let them sleep on your body." Her voice softened. "And they trusted you without fear." Rowan looked down at the small dragon. Its warmth pressed against his chest. Its tiny claws hooked lightly into his shirt. "But that doesn't explain the mark." "No," Vorth said. "It does not." Rowan frowned. "Then what is the mark exactly?" The leader's voice grew dark. "Something the pack prayed we would never see again." The silver-winged dragon lowered her head as if remembering a sad story. "It is called the Old Bond." Rowan blinked. "Old Bond? Like ancient history?" Vorth nodded. "Very ancient. Before dragons lived among the stars. Before we built our clans. Before the world had borders." He paused, his voice dropping into a deep rumble. "There was once a time when dragons could bond with other species." Rowan narrowed his eyes. "So this happened before?" "Yes," Vorth said, "but the bond became too strong, too dangerous. It changed the nature of both sides. It gave the bonded ones power they could not control." The silver-winged dragon added quietly, "Some bonds broke minds. Others broke worlds." Rowan's chest felt tight. "What does that have to do with me?" Vorth pointed his claw at Rowan's arm, where the glowing symbol pulsed beneath the skin. "The old bond appears only when a creature is chosen for the role of guardian." Rowan blinked. "Guardian of what?" Vorth stared at the hatchlings in Rowan's arms. "Of the dragon young. Their emotions. Their instincts. Their fire." Rowan felt cold. "I'm a guardian." "The hatchlings have accepted you," Vorth said. "And the flame agrees." "But I'm human." The silver-winged dragon tilted her head. "The flame doesn't care." The ground trembled again, harder. More trees snapped in the distance. A deep, terrible growl echoed through the valley. This one made Rowan feel sick, like something was reaching into the earth and squeezing it. Vorth hissed softly. "It's coming." Rowan swallowed. "Can't you dragons fight it?" Vorth's wings rose. "We can, but the creature is not normal prey." The silver-winged dragon whispered. "When the flame marks a new guardian, the Shadow Maw always comes. It smells the bond. It wants to devour it." Rowan tightened his hold on the hatchling. "Then I should run." Vorth shook his head. "You cannot outrun what follows destiny." Rowan bit his lip. "So what do we do?" Vorth's voice turned hard. "We stand and fight." But before Rowan could respond, the hatchling in his arms made a soft, whimpering sound. A tiny flame spark flickered from its nostrils. Its wings twitched anxiously. Rowan gently petted its head. Sure, it's okay. I'm right here. Something strange happened. Rowan's arm glowed brighter. The hatching relaxed instantly, like Rowan's touch calmed it on a level deeper than instinct. Vorth stared with wide eyes. The bond, he whispered. It is already growing stronger. Rowan blinked. Is that good or bad? Both, Vorth said. The stronger the bond, the more the shadow maw will hunger for you. The ground shook again. Harder, louder. A roar unlike anything alive ripped through the trees. A sound full of hunger. A sound full of hate. A sound that promised death. Vorth's wings snapped open. 2 arms, he roared. Dragons rose to the sky. Humans ran for cover. The forest exploded in front of them as something huge, black, and shifting like smoke crawled into the open. Rowan whispered, What is that? Vorth growled deeply. That is the one who hunted our young. The creature's many glowing eyes snapped to Rowan. It exhaled a hiss that sounded like knives scraping stone, and Rowan felt it instantly. It did not want the dragons. It did not want the outpost. It wanted him. No, it wanted the bond inside him. The threat in the shadows. The forest didn't break open. It was ripped open. Dark claws burst through the tree line, tearing huge trunks apart like thin paper. Birds scattered in terror. Ash rose into the air. The ground cracked as something enormous crawled out, dragging shadows behind it like long, twisting smoke. The shadow maw stepped into the clearing. It was not shaped like any animal Rowan had ever seen. It was tall as a small building, but its form was wrong, shifting, bending, stretching like it wasn't fully solid. Its body was made of black mist wrapped around bones that looked too ancient to belong to this world. Dozens of glowing white eyes blinked all over its head, and all of them stared directly at Rowan. Rowan felt cold crawl up his spine. I think it's looking at me. Vorth growled. It is looking at the bond inside you. The shadow maw opened its jaws. Its mouth was not a mouth. It was a swirling void, like a hole torn in reality itself, sucking air, light heat sound. Small stones rolled toward it, lifting from the ground and disappearing into that spinning darkness. The silver-winged dragon's voice trembled. It wants the flame's blessing. It wants the bond, the power, the dragon future, everything. Rowan clutched the hatchling in his arms tighter. The baby pressed closer to his chest, whimpering softly. Heat pulsed through Rowan's arm, brighter and stronger than ever. You protect them, Rowan whispered, and I'll protect you. Vorth stepped in front of Rowan, fire building in his throat. Stay behind me, Guardian. The shadow maw let out another roar, a horrible, echoing scream that made the ground shake and even dragons tremble. The roar pulled at Rowan's chest. Literally, the flame's blessing inside him throbbed painfully, like something was trying to tear it out of his heart. He staggered. It's pulling me. Vorth growled. Hold your ground. But Rowan's legs buckled. The shadow maw took one step forward. Each step shook the world. Shadows spread out under its feet, killing grass, drying soil, turning life into dust. Dragons roared from the sky and launched forward, 12 blazing streaks of fire. They shot fireballs, blasts of heat, and streams of red flame at the creature. The shadow maw did not dodge. It opened its void mouth wider, and the dragon fire simply disappeared. Like it was eaten, Rowan felt fear rise in his throat. It just swallowed fire. Vorth hissed. Fire cannot hurt it. Only the flame can. The glowing orb in Rowan's hand pulsed hard now, as if answering the call of danger. It heated his skin, sending warmth up his arm like liquid sunlight. The shadow maw took another step. Roar, Vorth ordered. Dragon's defensive form. The dragon spread out, forming a circle around Rowan. Their wings rose high, making a barrier of scales, fire, and muscle. But the shadow maw didn't attack them. It stared only at Rowan. The silver-winged dragon whispered, It will not stop. It wants you. Why me? Rowan shouted, stepping back. Vorth answered grimly, Because you hold what it cannot touch. The flame's blessing glowed brighter. The shadow maw screamed. And this time, the scream wasn't just sound. It was force. Waves of shadow rippled out, slamming into the dragons. They staggered. Some crashed into the ground. Others were thrown backward like leaves in a storm. Rowan was knocked off his feet. The hatchling almost slipped from his arms, but Rowan twisted his body and shielded the baby with his back. He hit the ground hard. The hatchling chirped in fear, sparks flying from its nose. Rowan groaned. I'm okay. I'm okay. But the shadow maw was moving fast now, shockingly fast for something so huge. It rushed forward, shadows pouring behind it like smoke in a storm. Vorith roared and tackled it. The two giants clashed, fire and void smashing together. Shadow Maw's claws hit Vorith's side, tearing deep cuts through his scales. Vorith's fire struck the creature's face, but the black mist absorbed most of it. The Shadow Maw lunged again. Vorith barely dodged. Rowan shouted, Vorith! The dragon leader turned his head. Run! Take the hatchlings and run. Rowan shook his head, jaw clenched. No, I'm not leaving you. You do not understand, human. Vorith snarled. If it takes you, the bond ends. The flame ends. And dragons end. Rowan's heart hammered. He looked down at the hatchling, shaking in his arms. The creature curled into his chest, tiny claws digging in softly, trusting him. Too trusting. Rowan stood. No, he whispered. I'm done running. He stepped forward. The flame's blessing pulsed. The air shimmered around him. A faint red glow began to spread across his skin, like lines of light rising from under his flesh. The silver-winged dragon gasped. The bond, it's awakening. Vorith saw it and roared, Rowan, stop. The Shadow Maw sensed the awakening power too. It turned away from Vorith and sprinted toward Rowan, faster than wind, faster than anything living should move. Rowan froze. For a moment, time slowed. Every dragon screamed his name. The hatchling cried out, wings fluttering. The flame inside him pulsed like a heart ready to burst. The Shadow Maw leaped. Rowan lifted the glowing orb in his hand. The orb exploded into light. A shock wave of pure fire burst outward, sweeping across the battlefield. Dragons shielded their eyes. Shadows burned away. The Shadow Maw crashed to the ground, rolling backward, the darkness on its body sizzling and smoking. Rowan stared at his hand. The orb had melted into his skin, forming a glowing mark across his palm. The fire wasn't inside the orb anymore. It was inside him. Vorith stared in awe and fear. The flame has accepted you fully. Rowan breathed hard, his arm glowing brighter. Then let's finish this. The Shadow Maw rose again, steaming, furious, and even hungrier than before. It looked at Rowan, and for the first time, it looked afraid. Humans plus dragons side by side. The Shadow Maw rose slowly, its huge body steaming where Rowan's shockwave had burned the darkness away. The mist around its bones twisted violently, like smoke trying to put itself back together. But for the first time, it did not rush forward. It stared at Rowan, at the glowing marks running across his arm and palm, at the newborn fire forming around him, at the hatchling in his arms, safe and trembling. Vorith saw the fear in the creature's eyes and growled. It recognizes the flame inside you. Rowan took one step forward. The ground under him glowed faintly, as if his footsteps were lighting the dirt with tiny sparks. Warmth spread through him, mixing with the pounding of his heart. The hatchling clung to his chest, comforted by the light. Rowan whispered softly, It's okay, stay close. The Shadow Maw screeched and threw itself backward, flattening trees with its sudden movement. Dragons gasped. Humans stared with wide eyes. Vorith roared proudly. You see, the enemy fears our guardian. But before Rowan could respond, the Shadow Maw slammed its claws into the ground. A wave of black mist shot outward, spreading like a dark tide. It rolled across the battlefield, covering the earth, darkening the air, swallowing light. Dragons took to the sky in panic. Humans retreated toward the outpost walls. Rowan felt a cold burn crawling up his legs as the shadow mist reached him. The hatchling shivered hard, crying softly. Vorith landed beside Rowan with a crash. Stay behind me. The Shadow Maw let out a low growl that seemed to pull at Rowan's bones. The mist crawled up Vorith's legs too, trying to drag him down. The dragon roared, flames bursting from his mouth. The fire burned the mist away, but only briefly. Rowan watched, confused. It's eating the fire? Vorith nodded sharply. Fire alone cannot stop it. The shadow maw began crawling forward again, jaws opening wide, the void in its mouth swirling faster, pulling at Rowan's chest. Rowan staggered as that sickening pull returned. The flames blessing inside him throbbed painfully, as if the creature was trying to rip it out. The hatchling yelped and buried its head against Rowan's neck. No, Rowan shouted. You're not taking anything from me. The glowing marks on his arm flared bright. Vorith's eyes widened. Rowan, your bond. Use it. Rowan looked down at the hatchling, shaking in his arms. He placed his hand on its small head. The warmth between them intensified, the bond pulsing like a shared heartbeat. And then something unbelievable happened. The hatchling's tiny body glowed, and Rowan glowed with it. The light shot outward, not a fire, but something deeper, something older. Dragons gasped in shock. The shadow maw screamed. The shadow mist recoiled instantly, melting away like dark ice. Rowan whispered, shocked, We did that together? Vorith's voice shook. The bond between you and the hatchling is creating a shared fire. A fire even the shadow maw cannot swallow. Rowan steadied himself, cradling the little dragon close. Then let's use it again. But the shadow maw wasn't waiting. It lunged. Fast. Too fast. Rowan barely had time to move. Vorith slammed into him, pushing him aside as the shadow maw's claws tore through the ground where Rowan had just stood. The earth split open. A shockwave knocked Rowan back. He rolled across the dirt, shielding the hatchling with his body. Dust exploded around him. Pain shot up his spine. Rowan! Vorith roared. The shadow maw turned toward Rowan again, ignoring dragons, ignoring humans, ignoring fire. It wanted only him. The flame. The bond. The power. Rowan scrambled to his feet, coughing. The hatchling clung tighter to him. You want me? Rowan whispered. Then come get me. He stepped forward again, glowing marks brightening with every breath. The shadow maw charged. Dragons dove from the sky, slamming into it from all sides. Some clawed at its mist body. Others breathed fire straight into its void mouth. The fire vanished. The claws cut mist, not flesh. But the attack slowed it. Only a little. Hold it, Vorith roared. Hold it. The dragon strained, wings beating, claws digging. They kept the creature back for a few seconds, just enough. Rowan lifted his glowing arm. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know how to control the power. But something inside him, something warm, ancient, dragon-like, guided his instincts. He focused on the hatchling in his arms. Help me, Rowan whispered. We do this together. The hatchling's body glowed brightly. It chirped softly and pressed its tiny head to Rowan's chest. A surge of energy raced up Rowan's arm. His vision flashed orange-red. His heartbeat thundered. Vorith shouted, Rowan now. Rowan thrust his glowing palm toward the shadow maw. A beam of pure flame erupted from his hand. Not normal fire, but the flame's ancient essence. It blasted across the battlefield with a roaring sound like a dragon made of sunlight. The beam hit the shadow maw straight in the chest. The creature shrieked, a sound so loud the mountains echoed. Its mist body burned away in chunks. Its glowing eyes dimmed. Its void mouth twisted, collapsing inward. Dragons roared in victory. Humans shouted in shock. But Rowan barely heard anything. The beam was draining him. His arm felt like it was burning from the inside out. His legs shook. His vision blurred. The hatchling squeaked, pressing close to him, trying to help. Rowan gritted his teeth. Just a little more. The shadow maw staggered backward, whole sections of its form turning into ash. It clawed at the ground, trying to escape the beam. Dark mist poured from its wounds. Then suddenly, silence. The shadow maw collapsed, half its body destroyed, the rest steaming and twitching. Vorith landed beside Rowan. It's down, but not dead. Rowan swayed, exhausted. I didn't finish it. Vorith looked at him with a mix of awe and fear. You nearly did. No dragon guardian in history has ever wounded a shadow maw alone. Rowan kneeled, breathing hard. The hatchling nuzzled his cheek, worried. Vorith stepped close, lowering his giant head. But now the creature knows your strength, and it will return. Rowan swallowed. Then we'll be ready. Vorith stared at him, eyes glowing. You don't understand. The shadow maw wasn't alone. Rowan froze. What? Vorith spread his wings slowly, every dragon behind him trembling. There are more coming, far more. And they want the same thing. Rowan looked down at the hatchling in his arms. He felt the flame pulse softly, dangerously. Vorith growled, one final warning. Guardian, this was only the beginning. The dragons, new chosen. The battlefield was strangely quiet after the shadow maw fell. No wind, no flames, no movement except the slow rise of black mist drifting from the creature's broken body. Dragons hovered in the sky, wings trembling. Humans peeked over the walls, pale and speechless. Rowan stood in the center of it all, arm burning with faint red light, breath shaking, body exhausted, hatchling clinging weakly to his chest. The world felt balanced on knife's edge. Vorith landed beside him, sending a shock through the ground. His wings lowered slowly. His eyes stayed sharp, scanning the forest. It is weakened, Vorith said quietly, but not destroyed. Rowan swallowed. We have to finish it. Vorith shook his head. If we kill it now, its essence will escape and call its kin faster. Rowan stiffened. Kin? You mean there are more? Vorith nodded. Many. And they will come for you, for the bond, for the flame, for the hatchlings. The hatchling in Rowan's arms nuzzled his chin, chirping weakly. Rowan sighed softly. I won't let anything hurt them. The silver-winged dragon stepped forward with the other two hatchlings. She placed them carefully beside Rowan. They crawled to him immediately, climbing onto his legs and arms as if they belonged nowhere else. The entire pack fell silent. Dragons whispered among themselves, shocked, confused, afraid, amazed. Vorith watched the scene with an expression Rowan had never seen on him before, something between disbelief and respect. The hatchlings do not choose lightly, Vorith said. Their instincts run deeper than our oldest fire. Rowan knelt so the hatchlings could climb safely onto him. Their tiny claws hooked into his jacket. One curled onto his shoulder. One pressed against his stomach. The smallest curled right against his heart. And then it happened. A soft red light spread from the hatchlings, flowing into Rowan like warm smoke. It wrapped around his arms, his chest, his neck. It wasn't hot. It felt like a protective blanket made of fire and love. Gasps rose from the dragons. The silver-winged dragon whispered, "The bond is complete." Vorith bowed his head. Not much, but enough to shock the entire pack. He spoke in a low, deep voice. "From this day, you are Hatchling Guardian." Rowan blinked. "Is that a title?" "A sacred one," Vorith said. "Older than dragon history. Lost for ages." The dragons bowed their heads. All of them. Even the warriors who had wanted Rowan dead minutes ago. But the moment was short-lived. The shadow maw's broken body twitched. Everyone froze. A dark pulse rippled across the battlefield, like a heartbeat made of nightmares. The creature's remaining eyes glowed faintly. Rowan tightened his hold on the hatchlings. "It's waking up." Vorith roared, "Dragons, stand ready." But before anyone could strike, the shadow maw let out a low, vibrating growl. Its body dissolved into black mist, swirling, twisting, and sinking into the ground. Rowan felt a cold chill crawl up his spine as the mist vanished into the earth. "It escaped," Rowan said. "It's not dead. It's hiding." Vorith growled deeply. "Not hiding. Waiting." Rowan looked at him. Waiting for what? Vorith didn't answer at first. His wings folded slowly. His eyes stared at the dark soil where the creature had vanished. Finally, he spoke. It ran to call the others. Rowan's heart dropped. How many others? Vorith's voice was grim, dark, and full of old fear. Enough to end worlds. Rowan looked down at the hatchlings in his arms. They gazed back with bright, trusting eyes, tiny, innocent, unaware of the danger rising around them. He whispered, Then we have to move. Now, before they get here. Vorth nodded. We leave before the second sun rises. The ancient lands may hold answers. And weapons. Rowan tried to stand, but his legs wobbled. The silver-winged dragon lowered her head and let him lean on her shoulder. You are not alone, Guardian, she said softly. Rowan gave her a tired smile. Good, because I don't feel very dragon-proof right now. That earned a few surprised dragon snorts, the dragon version of laughter. But then, a loud whoosh cut through the air. Every dragon snapped their heads toward the sky. A red streak was descending, fast, fierce, burning bright. Vorth's eyes widened. A messenger. The streak hit the ground in a burst of sparks, revealing a smaller dragon with golden eyes. Its wings shook with exhaustion, ash covering its scales. The messenger gasped for breath. Vorth stepped forward. What news? The messenger lifted its head. Its voice was thin, terrified. Leader Vorth, Guardian Rowan, the northern clans sent me. I bring warning. Rowan felt his chest tighten. The messenger trembled violently. The Shadow Maw is not the only threat. Rowan frowned. What do you mean? The messenger closed its eyes in fear. A greater force is coming. Something older. Something that smelled the bond from across the mountains. Rowan felt the hatchlings press closer. He whispered, What is coming? The messenger opened its golden eyes and spoke the words that froze every dragon in place. The ancient devourer has awakened, and it wants the guardian. Rowan's blood turned cold. Vorth's wings rose in shock. The hatchlings trembled, and somewhere in the dark earth, far away, the Shadow Maw screamed the call that would bring the nightmare closer.